name's Sean Connors and this is Outsiders, and this is my first RPG review show, so please bear with me. Today I'm going to be reviewing 3.5 Dungeons & Dragons, a system that I'm still playing today. I've decided that this will be my first review because it's a system I know so well, so what better way to kick off than one of the classics in my view. There is a more recent edition of Dungeons & Dragons at this time, however we will be coming back to that gorilla at a later stage. So let's kick off 3.5 of why it's been successful in my group. Actually, I suppose before I start that, I should actually talk about how I'm going to do my reviews and what it's going to be based on. So, first thing is to know is I'm going to be doing all my reviews based on a score of up to 4. 4 because there's no middle ground. If I was to choose it out of 5 or 10, it's easy to pick 5 or 6. This way, either a gaming system is good or it isn't. And I can't really sit on the fence. And I know and I appreciate, I saw this in other reviews, and I do appreciate this sentiment that these systems are people's, for want of a better word, children. They're their babies. They're something that they've built, developed, loved. And although I will try to be fair in my reviews, I'm equally going to be honest with them. And I'm going to be honest, and if I don't like something, I'm going to say why. But I'll always try and find positives. The sort of system, even if there's something in it that I don't like, maybe there's something in it that I think other people will. So I will try to do that. So let's kick it off, 3.5. I think without a doubt, without a shadow of a doubt, this has been the most successful role-playing game in the history of RPGs since their very inauguration. It's the biggest thing going. Biggest because successful open gaming license opened a floodgate of third-party distributors to produce material for this game. So it's the most supported. So anybody out there that's not giving it a go at this point, it's a fantastically well-supported system. There's literally hundreds of books that you could get. But I'm sticking to the core books here in front of me. I found personally that these were without a doubt the most play-tested games. Probably thousands of hours went into these, and it really shows. The system holds together incredibly well. It's a very tight-knit system of rules. I suppose you could call it an environment, really. Everything works well together. And it's very important to remember that because for some reason, I don't know why, but I've seen on some sites and forum sites that some people don't use certain rules. Just the system doesn't quite play the same if you don't use them all. That's a strength and a weakness. On the one side, you could say every rule is covered, and that's fantastic. And on the negative side of that, because every rule is covered, there's no grey areas for the referee. So it becomes more difficult to interpret. Plus, you might encourage players who are a little bit, shall we say, rule lawyers? It's a terminology, in case you're not familiar with, basically people that have got the books, that read them, and know how to quote them back chapter and verse. But for my group, this works very well. We all love the rules. We love the books. It's also quite crunchy. The more levels you go up, you find there is quite a bit of mathematics involved in this game. Again, for my particular group, they all find this very appealing. And you've got to be, I think, some of the top-notch players. There's a lot to this. I think this is one of the most intelligent systems out there by a mile. And I'm not being disrespectful to people that maybe have not tried it, but it really is something you've got to really like. You've got to love that crunch. If you don't, then immediately this is not the system for you. And then you throw into it another layer on top, which is tactical. The old D&D, which I still love with fondness, and this, by the way, this system clearly is still D&D, but it's D&D with the volume turned right up. And one of the things I like about it is because it really pushes you, both as a referee and a player, to produce quality games, to produce quality characters. I guess one of the drawbacks one might criticise at it is that there's so much to it, so many layers to it, that you can sometimes that can detract away from the role playing. That could happen, but I guess as a DM myself, I understand that there comes a point where you've got to keep the game fun, and you find that this system will allow you to do that. The one good thing about no grey areas is it's pretty clear you're right, and that's quite a nice feeling actually. You don't really get challenged much once you know the system, so that part of it I do enjoy and like. So what do you get? You get a player's handbook full of the classic traditional D&D characters, certainly with a lot of layers to them. I'm going to do other shows that will follow after this, which will really go into the character classes in a little bit more detail, some of the pros and cons of those character classes, particularly through the levels, and look at some of the nuances within the game that maybe some people don't look at. So I hope you'll look out for that particular part of my shows, and I hope you enjoy them, and I will hope for your regular feedback on this so that I know that I'm going in the right direction. Anyway, back to the system. So you get all the classic traditional characters. It has, as a player's handbook, you couldn't wish for more depth to the characters. There's so much that you can create. There's so many different ways you can look at a character. They've added layers on it where there's special feats that create feat trees, so that when you have one, you need one particular feat before you can get the next, before you can get the next, and so on. And you build these particular avenues up that give the character so much more that he or she can do. For that, I think it's fantastic. If you're a DM stuck for ideas, the DMG certainly gives you that, and I think you couldn't find a better monster manual, to be honest. There are so many ways to use it. Even after 8 years of playing this system, we're still finding out ripples to the game that we didn't know existed. Low-level play in this system, I believe, is anything up to about level 7. Beyond level 7, between 8 and 14, you're dealing with the mid-levels. And they're actually the trickiest levels because, without a doubt, lower levels, challenge rating-wise, it all tends to hold up very well. Challenge ratings, really, for those that don't know, are just the sort of, if you're 7th level, you expect to meet 7th level challenges, all stacks up very nicely. When you start reaching 8th, 9th and 10th, the challenge rating creatures that you find in the monster manual do stack up against you, but they tend to be more powerful than you in some ways. They tend to have more attacks, they're more lethal, they tend to have at-will abilities, they have grapple abilities, which some people don't like, and I'm going to come to that in a minute. And it's critically important that you as a referee understand all these nuances, but it's those are the levels, 8 to 14th, that separate the men from the boys. If you've got a bad build design in 3.5, it's going to really come out. And that brings me to another small point, really. I suppose if you don't understand the little nuances in the game, because sometimes not always obvious, then that can come back later and hurt you. And I know people might say, well, you know, the game is all about the theatre, it's all about the theatrics, but we play in our version of the game, I play it very open, I roll most of the dice openly. And there's no fluff, you know, I don't fudge a thing. So, unfortunately, in that version, what you find is that poor builds do, unfortunately, fall down long before I need to do anything about it. They just don't stack up very well, they don't last because the characters diluted the ability of the character. And we're going to cover that off in another programme, but I'm going to quickly touch on it. So, for example, in this system you could try multi-classing, and there's nothing stopping you. You can do so many different ways you can multi-class. But let's say you took a wizard to 3rd level and a cleric to 2nd. You'd have a 5th level character, but your 3rd level wizard will only cast 2nd level spells, and your 2nd level cleric will only cast 1st. Although you might have quite a few of them, the reality is your best spell is only 2nd level. Now if you're a 5th level character, your best spell is 3rd level. You'll see where I'm going, because obviously your enemy are likely to be at least 5th level, even maybe higher, and they might have 3rd level or 4th level spells that they can throw at you. And to be honest, what do you think the enemy's going to do? Its weakest or its best? So quickly you can see as you go up in the levels, builds can hamper overall design of the character and actually come back and bite you. So you need to be very, very careful, and that's something this system doesn't do well. Another thing that this system doesn't do particularly well is prestige classes. They originate in the DMG primarily. Unfortunately, they're just not particularly strong. There's only 1 or 2 that really are any good for players to have. One of the criticisms, there's a bell, so I'm down to the last couple of minutes. One of the criticisms the players has is that it just was too crunchy. You know, it just didn't work very well. There wasn't enough in it from why should I bother to dilute it, and I can understand that. So that's unfortunately something that has never been addressed. So let's recap very quickly. Where do I see this game? 3.5 is a 3.5, funny enough, as my rating will go. I'll give it 3.5. It's an excellent system, well supported, scoring very highly because of the fact that it's been so well play tested. If you like your fantasy high, you like the volume turned up, and you enjoy that side of the game, you will love 3.5. My name's Sean Connors, this has been Outsiders. Happy gaming until the next time. See ya.